Okay, so this is just a quick demo using the JavaAVR system and the TinyBoy system as well, just on account of the trouble that we've had running my laptop in the lectures. Cool. So firstly, the system, both of these systems are available on GitHub. They're actually on my personal GitHub. So github.com/Dave Pierce, and in this case, JavaAVR. And this is the full source code for the system that you'll be using. And I'll show it in a moment. And also the other one is the TinyBoy system, which is effectively an extension. And so that's there as well. So you're welcome to look at that. Cool. All right, so let's try running it. So we're going to run the application. You can see it brings up this little tidying window. Doesn't really do much. What I want to do is load an example ROM, such as the console. That's super easy. And let's open up a few views. That's the view of the code, and that's the view of the data. So the code is showing us the full AVR machine code and the translated assembly language. And the data view is showing us the RAM of the machine, which is 512 bytes of data. That's the complete RAM, which is really cool that you can see the whole thing. And finally, for this demo, I'm going to connect the console peripheral. So that just gives me this sort of like a terminal, basically, that allows me to see serial data coming out of the embedded system. Great. And so if I press play, it will start to run the program at 8 megahertz, and it'll pretty quickly run through the program and execute the code. And what we can actually do is we can start by single stepping it. So if we step, we'll see the code actually executing each of the instructions, and we start to see stuff happening in the data. And it's marked in yellow just to indicate that it has been modified by the system, so that we can actually see what's changing, and we can follow what it's doing. You can see here it's setting up a bunch of stuff, and so on and so on. And you can see it's writing to memory. And what it's actually doing is copying a string, I think, into the memory here from the flash, but that doesn't matter that much. And if we just press play, it'll run the whole thing through, and we see it should have actually printed something there. It hasn't printed very well. Wonder if we can try that again. There we go, that's better. Second time, it's something to do with the single stepping has slightly interfered with the timing, but that's fine. You can see that the second time I ran it, it printed hello world, and that was what it's supposed to do. Cool, so that just gives you an idea of the system. And let's have a look at the extension. So I'm going to close that down now, and we will open the TinyBoy system here. And again, I'm going to just run that. And what you'll see is it's the same system, right? Except we've got this TinyBoy sort of game emulator. And so we can try, we've got some slightly more interesting programs we can try. So let's try Tetris. Sweet. And let's view the data view. I don't often find the code views that useful unless I'm debugging a particular issue with the code, but the data view is pretty useful. All right, there we go. That's not too bad. Gold. So we can just play it, right? And so what you can see now, if I stop it, again, in yellow, you can see all the data that has been modified by the program as it's executing, read or written. And in particular, at the end, you can see the stack, which contains all of the value of local variables and so on and so forth that have been stored on the stack. And in the middle, a large chunk of that is actually the graphics that are used for drawing the graphics on the game. It's basically just reading out all these different sprites. So we just carry on, we can play. It's pretty much Tetris as you would know it. The keyboard input is still not great on this, I have to say, but it doesn't really matter for our purposes. But what you can see is it implements the game. Whoa, oopsie, I made a mistake there. Oh, that's fine. I'm not that worried. All right, game over. Got it. All right, and that's pretty much the end of the demo.